Boy, I feel like I've talked about a lot of different canon things with the Bad Batch. The latest episode had some potential new retcons or contradictions or whatever you want to call them, but the more I think about it, the more I really like how this new issue was handled. So in the episode, Ryloth Senator Orn Free Taa makes a deal with the devil, hence the title Devil's Deal. He wants to keep power and comfort on his home planet, and part of that includes getting rid of his longtime political rival, Cham Syndulla. So he works with the Empire to undermine him, but in the end, the Empire has Crosshair shoot Orn Free Taa so they can frame Cham for the assassination and tighten their grip on Ryloth. I think that story is great on a lot of levels. It feels like a really grim but inevitable conclusion for these two rivals who are just being used by the Empire. It feels like the perfect end for a character like Taa, who has always put his own desires over those of the people he's meant to serve, as Cham points out. I love it. The only problem is, there's a book called Lords of the Sith that takes place 5 years after this episode, and Orn Free Taa is part of that story, still alive, running around acting like his terrible self. So how on earth are we going to reconcile this? I actually think the show helps us out for once. The Empire has Cham arrested for an attempted assassination, not a successful one. We also just saw that Cad Bane likely survived a recent blaster shot to the head himself thanks to a metal plate added to his character model. It's definitely a stretch given what we see happen in the episode, but I think it's plausible that Orn Free Taa could still be alive. My opinion on that matter is that he is alive or dead depending on what content you've read or watched. This whole situation reminds me of Darth Maul, actually. I've got a ton of friends who only watch the Star Wars movies. To them, Darth Maul has been dead since 1999. And then 2018 comes along and what? Is that? It is! That's Darth Maul! And in the theater, I have an entire row leaning over to look at Molly and me and we're like, relax, we'll fill you in when this is over. To people who just saw the movies and didn't live and breathe Star Wars, they just assumed Maul was dead and gone until Solo. But anyone who watched the movies and watched the Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels knew better. This whole Orn Free Taa situation is just taking that one step further. To fans who only watch the shows, I think they are meant to assume that the character is dead. I think that's what the episode is largely leading us to believe. A sniper hit him in the head. He went down. It's not like anyone rushed to his aid. And then the clones just cart his body off. And yeah, I know people have said you can see his hands moving in that scene, but I just think that's the body reacting to being moved. To anyone who's just seen the Clone Wars and the Bad Batch, Orn Free Taa is probably dead, and frankly, I think they saw the better conclusion for the character. But to any fan who has gone a step further and has read Lords of the Sith, we get that line about it being an attempted assassination. We know Cad Bane was able to survive a headshot. We can shrug and say, I guess this still works, and move on. Which is basically what I did. I mean, it's Orn Free Taa, it's not that big of a deal. Are there any Orn Free Taa stands out there? I don't think I've ever met one. I'm honestly surprised they wrote in a line that actually does make Lords of the Sith still fit. It's hard for me to argue with how they handled this, because I think it works well enough for both TV watchers and book readers. I think the show writers had a good and meaningful end for this character and they went for it. They told the best possible story they could in the moment for, let's be honest, a much larger audience, and they still threw the canon junkies a bone. I'm sure your mileage will vary, but I for one can get behind this method of altering things while at least nodding to those of us that they know are gonna take notice of this kind of thing. But now just wait until Friday and this next episode, and with my luck, the first scene is going to show Orn Free Taa with a comically large bandage on his head asking why the Empire shot him. Or they'll straight up cremate his body on camera or explicitly say he's dead. Either scenario will make this video pointless. But until we see otherwise, I'm going to assume that his story is finished, and we probably aren't going to see him pop up in future stories ever again. But what did you think about all this? Let me know in the comments. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and consider checking out our Patreon page where we're releasing audio commentaries and reactions to all these new episodes. As always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.